How many of you guys have been to VCOM before? A few, that's good. How many of you guys would say that your knowledge about VCOM is about, I don't know, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 5? Okay, anybody greater than a 5? Yes, you are, because you're going there. Okay, well then I'm going to go over the whole presentation. I wasn't sure if y'all knew a lot about it. We are right in the backyard. We're at the Corporate Research Center. How many of you guys have been to the Corporate Research Center? Okay, the ones that have gone to VCOM. So that's really, really close. It's kind of over by the sports fields and rec sports fields and soccer fields. If you keep going past the airport, it's that Corporate Research Center there. And so we are located on Craft Drive, if you want to come find us. One of the first announcements I'm going to make is our open house is on March the 14th. So that information is in the packets that I gave y'all, or that I will give y'all. And there's a flyer for the Carolinas one as well. That one's pretty full at the moment, but we can see if we can get you in. That one's on February 28th. But ours here at the Virginia campus is on the 14th. So something to look out for. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about, well, actually, osteopathic medicine. So I know you're in PreSOMA, but again, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your knowledge of osteopathic medicine? About a 5? How many of you would raise your hands for a 5? Nick. Okay, I'm going to go through the whole spiel. So this is good. So that's a video that we'll go through later. This is the Virginia campus. That's what it looks like from the outside. So we have 4 buildings. This is the main one with the main lecture halls. We've also got a research building that's in that Corporate Research Center, and then across the street we have another building that is it's like a crash dummy testing research site that Wake Forest and Virginia Tech and VCOM all partnered together to form. We also have it's a banquet hall as well for VCOM, so it's kind of split that way along with a few other businesses. So that's across the street from this main building. And then we also have a simulation and technology center that's an entirely separate building as well. So there are 4, and it's all within that Corporate Research Center. And we also have the Carolinas campus, which is in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where Nick is going. And then we have the Auburn campus, which is starting this year. And so we're getting applications currently for starting in August of this year, and so that's a new venture. It's got Auburn has a very similar relationship with Virginia Tech in that they're both land-grant universities, and VCOM is a private institution, but we are able to work with larger universities, which is kind of nice. And then the Spartanburg campus, there are some smaller liberal arts schools around, and some other schools. The University of South Carolina upstate is in that Spartanburg area, so there's a good collaboration with a lot of different schools there too. And they are different geographical areas, but they all have the same mission. So I will show you what that is. We want to prepare globally minded, community-focused physicians to meet the needs of rural and medically underserved populations and promote research to improve human health. So that is the overall goal of VCOM at all 3 campuses. And I've seen from the top down, from administration, they are very passionate about this mission. I was very attracted to this mission as well and wanted to be a part of it. And so I was very fortunate to start working at VCOM. And it's very neat to see students that really want to meet this as well. So you can see there's a map of the Appalachian region. We kind of started in this area because there was a great shortage of physicians predicted in the Appalachian area and in the United States in general. So this was kind of a prime place to start a medical school, an osteopathic medical school. And so that's why the Appalachian region is highlighted. Those are the folks that we're looking for. Not primarily, but that's what we started with. And we are still looking for those candidates from those places, but we also are looking for folks that are going to meet that mission. So it's not just from the Appalachian area, but it's from anywhere that wants to serve underserved populations. So we also have relationships with Honduras and the Dominican Republic and El Salvador. We've got 3 different sites there where our students are able to go on week-long trips during their 1st and 2nd year, and then their 3rd year they can go on month-long rotations in those 3 countries. So this is Andrew Taylor Still. He is the founder of osteopathic medicine. And these are the tenets of osteopathic medicine. I won't read them, but I'm going to tell you all a story about them, about how I've experienced osteopathic medicine. I played soccer in the area on just a rec league around as a community league. And there were some Hokies that were out there, and then there were some older guys who were like in their 40s, and then some other women who were in their 20s and 30s. And so we all played together, and I hurt my knee somehow. So I don't know what I did to it, but all I know is that I hurt it. And so some of our students, and later a faculty member helped out, but some of our students were able to test with their hands to see if it was my ACL or my meniscus or my MCL. I just knew that my knee hurt, and I didn't know what was wrong, but something was wrong. So they were able to feel around, and they were actually able to figure out that it was my fibular head that was out of whack. I don't know if you've taken anatomy yet, but it was not in its right place, and they were able to put it back into place. And I like that example because if I had taken a painkiller of some sort, which would have been fine, ibuprofen, that would have helped me pain-wise, but it would not have fixed me structurally. And so the students were able to put me back structurally well. And so that's something that you're going to learn as an osteopathic physician. So these tenets are saying that structure and function are related. So I would not have had the right function of my leg because my structure was out of place. So that's one of the tenets up there that makes a lot of sense. So you can read over these tenets. And then I'll show you about the difference between osteopathic versus allopathic medicine. You got the same practice rights as an osteopathic physician and as an allopathic physician, an MD. They go into the same specialties. Their training is the same length, so it's 4 years at VCOM, and then you'll have a residency program after that. So there are very few differences, but the difference comes in the training that you receive during school. And so one of the aspects of that training is the 200 hours of that musculoskeletal medicine. And so our students will learn how to palpate and how to figure out if your shoulder is not in the right place. And they'll figure out if one leg is longer than the other, which would make you walk pretty funny and would make your, could make your back out of whack if your legs were not the same length. And so you learn various osteopathic manipulative treatments as an osteopathic medical student. And that is unique to the osteopathic profession. Another aspect is the emphasis on primary care as a whole, and VCOM certainly has an emphasis on primary care. About 60% of our residents go into family medicine, into pediatrics, internal medicine, and we count OB in there as well sometimes. So, and we have 40% that go into other areas I can tell you all about later. So this is where we think we're distinctive in outreach and in research in sports medicine. As a school, in outreach, I mentioned the 3 different countries that we have gone to and have sent students to. And something I love about those sites are that they're sustainable and they could exist without VCOM, but it allows, those sites allow our students to experience international medicine. And a lot of students, I would say, come in with some either international experience or desire to go to abroad. And so this provides an opportunity through the school to do that. So that's something that's optional for students. One aspect of outreach that is a part of their curriculum, an example of that are community health fairs that are around the area. So there's some set up in Giles County, there's some set up in Roanoke at the Roanoke Rescue Mission. And so about 40 of our students will go on a Friday with about 4 or 5 of our physicians, and they'll set up different stations for anyone that is coming into the health fair at the Roanoke Rescue Mission that day. So they could do blood screenings, and they could do dermatology screenings and cancer screenings. So you're in a group of about 3 or 4 students, and then physicians are walking around to make sure you're telling the right stuff. But that's an experience for our students to get out into the community and to practice their medical knowledge too. And so we're still building trust in this area, and that's a way to do it specifically through the curriculum. But we also have, and that's our early clinical experiences, or what those are called. We also have opportunity through our student organizations to be involved in the community and to do other outreach. Another example I can think of is the AARP organization usually has a large health fair, and so VCOM students get to be a part of that and get to, again, do some of those screenings. They get to do an OMM osteopathic manipulative treatment station where they can treat anybody along with a supervising physician that comes in. So those are some opportunities that I have seen VCOM students be a part of, both within their curriculum and then outside of that as well. Another distinctive is sports medicine. So we have a very active sports medicine student organization. They have won awards for their groups, and so that's been really fun to hear them winning. And there are lots of opportunities for our students to shadow the football games here at Tech and to shadow wrestling and soccer with our sports medicine fellows, and then with our just other sports medicine faculty members. So that's a very, I think, distinctive part of VCOM in general. And there are similar relationships with some other colleges at the Spartanburg campus and then also at the Auburn campus. And specifically, something that is unique is that we have a sports medicine fellowship. So once you do your VCOM 4 years in training, then you do a residency program, then you could do a year-long sports medicine fellowship. And so we usually have about 3 or 4 candidates for that, and one of them is usually a VCOM student. That's not to say that won't change in the future, but we usually have students that want to come back for that. And that's going to happen and start up in Auburn as well. And the last is research. VCOM has been a part of helping Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech has been a part of helping VCOM with collaborative research. So some of our professors are able to use some Virginia Tech resources, and they also have the advantage of having VCOM students. So, and teaching VCOM students. So it's a nice relationship that we've got going on. And we have biomedical and clinical research. We've also got a research day coming up at the end of this month. If you're interested, let me know if you'd want to come to that. It's on Friday, February 27th, and I could see if you could come as a student. These are the opportunities that you may be able to be a part of, specifically these areas. I'm sure that will be growing. Our Vice Provost of Research has a goal in mind, and he wants VCOM to be one of the top research medical schools. And so there's a plan in place for that, and obviously we're doing research now, but I think that's going to increase as we go along. And so there are opportunities during your time as a VCOM student to get involved in research, whether that's during the summer or during your time while you're in class as an additional responsibility that you pick up. And some of the areas that I've seen, some students come in knowing that they want to do research. And there was one student who wanted to become a neurosurgeon, and that's what he's doing and currently. And so he was able to tack on with Parkinson's research. There was a Michael J. Fox Foundation grant that was given to one of our pharmacologists, and he was able to work with her on Parkinson's research throughout his time at VCOM to gain experience for him and then help the school also. Another area where I thought was so interesting that was helpful for a student but also for just a dear friend of hers, was through research. It was just fun to hear about. There was a student named Gretchen, and she graduated from VCOM in 2014. She had a friend who was a missionary in Africa, and they had gotten some kind of GI disease, and they weren't sure what it was, and so she was able to ask one of our microbiology professors to help. And so they were working on that and were able to, I don't know the actual outcome, but they were able to figure it out. She was able to do research and be published on that. So she was able to help a friend and able to get to know a faculty member, as well as get published. So that was something that helped her for residency. So it seemed like a win-win-win situation all around. And it was something that she was specifically interested in that was able to happen through VCOM. So that was neat to hear about. I've got other information about research too at our international sites that another friend is going on. But if you want to hear about that, ask me after. I'll keep moving. So this is our curriculum. We use a systems curriculum at VCOM. And what that means is that there are 4 blocks that you'll go through, 4 in your first year, 4 in your second year. The first one that you go through is the basic sciences. So it's microbiology, biochemistry, pharmacology. It's designed to get you just on the same page. And then you'll move on in blocks 2 through 7, you'll do the body systems. And so what that looks like, if you're studying the gastrointestinal system, you are going to have lecture all about that So it's definitely lecture-based, but you'll have the anatomy lab that you'll look at. You will have the simulation centers that we'll send you over to, and you'll have emergency situations that you're working on in our sim center with a small group. Then you'll have a one-on-one interaction with a standardized patient that we've hired, and that interaction is very closely watched. You'll also have opportunity to do student-directed learning and learn pathology in kind of a small group scenario. So there are lots of different types of learning that are found within the blocks in the systems, and we do both normal and abnormal in the same block. So that is different with some medical school curriculum, but that's how we do it. And then at the end of your 7th block and into your 8th block, we will give you tools for preparing for boards. So after your 2nd year of medical school, you have to take your first round of boards to test you on all the knowledge that you learned in your 1st and 2nd year. And the school has designed some current lecturers to come in, but also someone outside that has experience with board writing questions and boards in general. So they'll come in and have a structured time for you. And we'll also provide resources that you can purchase and buy for different programs to get you prepared for boards. We'll get there eventually, but so you don't have to think about all those details now, but the important part is that we prepare you, and that's an important part of the structure of the curriculum. And then you'll pass boards, and then you'll start 3rd year rotations. And we have a lot of different training sites in Southwest Virginia, but then we also have some in Danville and in Central Virginia. We've also got some on the Eastern Shore too. So those are some to consider in Virginia, but then we've also got some in North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and then some in Florida as well, in Miami. So there are a lot of different types of hospitals that we have relationships with. We have some smaller community hospitals, and then some larger scale, trauma level 1 hospitals. And there are advantages to both of those. At a smaller community hospital, you would probably get to do more. There's probably more one-on-one attention, whereas at a larger hospital, you probably would get to see more and would have to do some things to meet those clinical requirements, but you would also be competing with some residents that would get first choice over the medical students. And so there are advantages to both, but you get the opportunity to consider where you want to do your training and put in a kind of a bid for where you want to be, and ultimately VCOM will make that choice. But it's nice that there's opportunity for a lot of different training sites. And the core rotations that we have are designed with primary care in mind. So there are certainly other specialties that are represented there, but you have 2 months of internal medicine, you have pediatrics, you've got OBGYN, you have family medicine, and then you have an underserved care rotation. And the underserved care could be another family medicine or internal medicine rotation, or you could spend that month internationally at one of the 3 core sites that we have in the Dominican Republic and Honduras or El Salvador. And then we also have other specialties like psychiatry, and we've got surgery. So those are things that we think that you need to learn during your 3rd year. In your 4th year, you have a little more leeway to choose. And this is when you're really choosing your specialty that you want to go into. So you have the fall, really, and rotations in the fall to have as audition rotations, where you would spend a month where maybe you would want to do residency there. So we definitely give you more flexibility during your 4th year. And there's certainly some rotations that you have to do through VCOM sites, but there's a little more flexibility than there is during 3rd year. And then you'll graduate, and you'll become a resident, and whether that's in the primary care or whether that's in another specialty. We've got wonderful graduates, and it's just so fun to see students come in as first-year students and then walk across the stage and get that diploma and start residency. It's so fun to see where students match. We just had the osteopathic match, because there's an osteopathic match and an allopathic match, and I can go into more detail about that later if you have questions about that. But we just had our 2015 class match in the osteopathic, and so that was very fun to see where our students are going. It's a real privilege to be a part of that process. We have a lot of students that are leaders in their residency programs and that have gone on for different fellowships. There was one student who was at Roanoke, and he is going to go into cardiology. He found that out, and he was very gleeful about that. So that was just kind of fun. I got to see that on Facebook. that he got that. And these are some of the residency programs that our students have gone to. Again, some are smaller community hospitals, and then some are larger scale hospitals, and there's a wide range. I can show you, specific residency programs if you have questions. Some of the ones that I have noticed, Wake Forest has a lot of VCOM grads, VCU has a lot of VCOM grads. Right around here, Lewis Gale Montgomery has a lot of VCOM grads too. But these are a few of the residency programs where our students have gone. So here's the application process. How many of you all have looked into the application process? Yeah, okay, all right. So I'll go over it. So we have the ACOMAS process. And ACOMAS is a little different than AMCAS. So AMCAS is for the MD application process, but ACOMAS is the osteopathic application process. And it's very similar information they have to put in. They're just a little bit different styles, and we get all of our information from ACOMAS. So that is opening up. They have a new graphic interface this year, so it will start in May when you can put in your application, but then June 1st is when you can submit it. So you submit it in June. We'll accept it through probably February 15th, maybe later than that, but likely February 15th for your ACOMAS deadline, and you just have to submit the button by then. But I don't even want to talk about February. Let's talk about early. It is so much better to get your application in earlier. That is going to set you up better. You're going to have more opportunity for options, and it just saves a world of trouble. So I would recommend aiming for applying in that June to August range. If you can get your application in during then, I think it'll set you up very nicely. If you don't for some reason, then it goes through February. Something about our class is that we usually start to fill up around February or March. So if you're just submitting your application in January or February, you may be looking at a wait list seat. And that's specific to VCOM, but that is something I feel like is worth mentioning here. We will start interviewing in that October, end of September, October range, and we'll go through probably March or maybe early April. And that's, again, specific to VCOM. We require that you take the MCAT, and I know that it is brand spanking new now. So VCOM is obviously thinking about that, but then all other medical schools are thinking about that as well. And so we have not changed our prerequisites, and I'll show you what those are in the next slide, but that's something that we still require, and something that we're very aware of that's changing. We require our secondary application as well. In our process, we screen for secondary applications. So we'll look at your ACOMAS application. It may take us a week, I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks to process your application for a secondary application. And that time is spent poring over your ACOMAS application, poring over details, because we spend a lot of time at the front screening applications and applicants. Something else that we require are letters of recommendation. We require 1 letter of recommendation from a science faculty member. And here at Tech, we would recommend that you go through the committee process. We'll probably ask why you didn't go through the committee process if you don't have a letter from them. But if you don't, we do only require the science faculty letter and then a physician letter. And that can be either an MD or a DO. But at the end of our process, in order for you to matriculate and become a student at VCOM, we will require that you have an osteopathic physician letter of recommendation. So it may be to your advantage to just go ahead and get that now. That's something that, again, you don't have to get an interview, but something once your acceptance comes through, then we would require that. And we have rolling admission. So again, it opens June the 1st. You can submit the application, goes through February the 15th. And then our secondary application is due March the 15th. But again, it's definitely to your advantage to do it before then. I'll keep preaching on that, so I won't say that enough. So here are the minimum requirements that we have. It's your basic biology, so 6 to 8 hours of biology, 6 to 8 hours of physics, 6 to 8 hours of organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. And then you also have to have 6 additional upper level credits, and you'll probably get that through tech, but that's something, again, definitely worth talking about because that's a little bit different than some other schools. And something that we also require is your undergraduate degree before you come to VCOM. That can be any major. So if you're thinking about changing majors, you don't have to have a biology degree. Of course, that would definitely be helpful, but you can major in anything as long as you have those prerequisites and as long as you are getting prepared for the medical school curriculum and rigors of that. So more on VCOM. These are the campuses, well, I'll show specifically. This is the Carolinas campus, but it's very similar to the VCOM Virginia layout as well. So that's the lecture hall, and you'll spend lots of hours there, lots of good hours getting to know one another. We also have, small group rooms and just a lot of places to study around. Then this is one of the OMM rooms. We have about, I think it's 6 to 8 OMM lab rooms. And how that occurs is that you'll have probably about 14 to 18 fellow students with 1 or 2 physicians. And it's about once a week where you'll go across to our Simulation and Technology Center and you'll have lab. And you'll have lecture where you hear it. You'll see what you're supposed to learn on the screens that are in these rooms. And then you'll do it with a partner. So there's some kind of sequence of learning that's taking place. And that's just how we work it at VCOM. And then we also have a simulation technology center, as I mentioned. And so you'll have about 4 to 5 students with a physician working on different cases. It could be a heart and lungs case where someone has a heart attack and you're trying to figure out what to do, or if a lung collapses. You'll usually go through about 4 to 5 different cases depending on the block that you're going through. And then we have an anatomy lab. You'll have about a year's worth of anatomy. And so that is something, again, worth mentioning. It's very important at VCOM. And we have about 32 cadavers per person, or per group, not per person. And then we have about, we have probably 5 or 6 other cadavers that our anatomy professors will do pro-sections on, where you can see what you're supposed to be dissecting in your groups. And we have an amazing anatomy lab. It's on the top floor. It's got great airflow. So if you have not visited, you need to come over and see it for yourselves. They've spent a lot of time making sure that there was natural light in the anatomy lab and that it was not in the basement. So that's a definite advantage of a newer school. Then we've got student organizations. We have a very active group of students. And so there are some national organizations that we have, as well as homegrown organizations. So an example of one of the homegrown organizations is our Hispanic Community Medical Outreach Group. And so that one is specific just to VCOM, but then we have other organizations like the ACOP, the American Osteopathic Pediatrics Group. And so that is a national one where you pay national dues and where you have to pay something to VCOM as well, but that's an advantage of being a part of a professional group. You get to hear about different conferences to go to, and each of these student organizations will bring in various speakers in addition to the lectures that you have, and a lot of students really enjoy going to those. They also have community events where there's a safety day, or I think it's called Wheels and Wagons, for little children in Blacksburg to learn how to have bike safety and how to make first aid kit. And so our emergency student organization usually likes going to that event. There are other ones you can see up here. The sports medicine group has a very hands-on event. They were doing a backboarding workshop. So there are definitely opportunities to use your skills. Usually the Surgical Association has bananas that you can learn how to suture on. They have splits and sutures, so you have banana splits and then you sew up the banana. And they also have, I think, chicken breasts, and then they have like pig's feet that you learn how to suture as well. So there are very practical elements of the student organizations, as well as community events too. So this is a quick look at the Virginia campus class. We have 188 students per class at the Virginia campus, and then we usually have about 60 to 70% that come from the Appalachian region, or Appalachian states at least, and then usually about 50%, so it's 48% that was in this last class from Virginia. So a lot of folks are from Virginia, but we definitely have students from all over, and especially if you're at Virginia Tech. Not that you're counted as a Virginia student, but we would love to see your application. Then obviously you know what's going on around here. There's the downtown and the beautiful duck pond. But this is what we show other people that have not seen this area. Virginia campus. I mentioned before that there's, there's a collaboration with Virginia Tech. So we're a private school, but you are associated with Virginia Tech, which is, obviously a large-scale university. And so you have some advantages of being kind of like a grad student in that you can go to the football games, you can get student rates for that and for cultural events, and then there's intramural sports. A lot of students will join those teams and really enjoy playing against undergrads, and they enjoy winning. So we were like, I'm sure that Virginia Tech students are just so annoyed with VCOMers. But yeah, that's a really nice study break that our students enjoy. They also get to go to the library in different study areas around, so a lot of them like to go to the bridge, and they like to Torgerson Bridge and Torgerson Hall, and they like to use the library. There's free bus access. You have access to the gym still. So there are a lot of advantages of becoming a VCOM student. And you still have connection with the Virginia Tech community, which is great. And it's a very similar relationship with the Auburn and Carolinas campuses. There are just different advantages at all those schools. So Carolinas campus, there's 162 students that are in this class. Again, most are from Appalachian states, a majority are. And then from North and South Carolina, there's 35%, and other areas too, Appalachian region mostly. And these are some pictures of Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's funny that there's ice skating, but they do have winter activities down there. Their class was canceled yesterday as well, so they definitely have some snow days, but I would say probably the majority of the winter weather is up here as opposed to the Carolinas and Auburn campuses. But it's there's a fun downtown area. They've got some restaurants and just things to do in the area. It's close to Charlotte, about an hour away. And then it's also very close to Spartanburg Regional, which is about a 600-bed facility, hospital. And it's a trauma level 1 facility, so there are a lot of opportunities just to be around and to shadow. And it's nice that it's very, very close to VCOM. So that's the building of the Carolinas campus. And this is kind of like VCOM 2.0, because they were able to combine some things like the simulation center is on the top floor. It's not in another building. And they have storage in the basement, which we're very envious of, because we don't have that storage at the Virginia campus. We just have it in other places. But it's a very, very nice facility. And then Auburn, of course, is going to be really nice too. And it'll fit in with the Auburn decor. So this is a rendering of what it will look like. And they're in the process of building it right now. In their class, it'll be at 162, it says, or 150 to 162. And then just some pictures of Auburn. Their stadium's a little bit bigger than ours, SEC. And then there are other opportunities in Alabama. If you would like to go south, they've got relationships with different hospital systems in Alabama. And then some more residency programs that are going to be set up in Alabama as well. That's what it looks like currently. And that's it. So, thank you all for paying attention. What questions can I answer?